Welcome to my home. It's good to see you guys again. Today I want to tell you a story, one of the crazy God stories, about a pastor from the province I worked in who became my good friend. We got to know each other from the early 90s, and I would be coming back to America to fundraise, to recruit, to do all the work of developing our ministry and our work in China. And I remember going to him in the mid-90s and saying, "Pastor, what should I preach about when I'm back in America?" Every time I come to America, it was like, okay, what part of the Bible do I preach from? What part of history and theology do I preach from? So I thought I'd ask this Chinese pastor. You know, it's a good missionary thing. Don't ignore what your local churches are doing and what they think. He came back with the most awesome idea. He said, "Finn, please preach on Moses. Tell the story of Moses." And I'm looking at him, okay, Old Testament, story of Moses. Great man, what are you talking about? He said, "Tell the story of Moses. It's the story of China. We were captive under the Chinese communist regime for decades. And in the late 70s, we finally got some freedom. That was like the children of Israel under the Egyptians for 400 years. It felt like 400 years to us in China. So finally, in the late 70s, early 80s, God does all these miracles. It's like crossing the Red Sea and going through the desert into the promised land. And we are in the 80s, the church is growing, the churches are opened up, evangelism is happening, the world is, wow, we are excited about what's going on. Well, do you remember when Moses got to the promised land? 2 years of wandering in the wilderness, they get to the promised land, and he sends in the 12 spies. Now, he didn't say this, but I think about this. This is the first recorded event of democracy. The 12 spies went in and they went with the majority vote. The majority were idiots. They were dumb. 10 of the spies said, "There are great walls." Oh, that's a China kind of thing. "There are giants in the land. We cannot go in there. This is scary. We'll never make it. The people of the land will destroy us." Caleb and Joshua said, "This is God's country. It's flowing with milk and honey. It's a wonderful place. This is God's country. Let's go in and take it." He said, "Preach on Moses and the 12 spies and tell the people, yeah, we have persecution in China. The church is not given freedom like we want, but who cares? Who cares? We need Caleb's and Joshua's that do not see the things that Satan is doing, but see what God is doing. Stop talking about persecution. Start talking about what God is doing. And let us take the promised land for God, because God is there to take it for us." Now, you need to know this pastor, every visitor I had, the first or second question they all asked him was, "What is the persecution like?" He said, "Why do all the Westerners think about persecution? That's so unimportant. Become Caleb and Joshua and see what God is doing." Boy, I went back to the States. It changed my life, and it made me realize, yeah, life is always going to be full of persecution, always full of crazy things happening. It's not important. Guess what happened to the children of Israel because they listened to the majority vote? The 10 spies. God sent them into the desert for 40 years to let them all die, rather than letting them receive his promises. Think about what you're worried about. What is God facing you with? There are always going to be problems and struggles. Be a Caleb, be a Joshua. See what God is doing and take on your problems and struggles and get through them and get to the promised land that God's promised. Thank you.